Brandon just needs a little help, Danielle. The chipped formica table of Mom's kitchen felt cold beneath my trembling hands. Sunlight streamed through the floral curtains, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air, mocking the turmoil churning inside me. My stomach dropped. Inside, I was screaming. Outside, I remained composed. 3 months he lived with us. 3 months of smiles and supposed care for Johnny. It was all a lie. The hospital called just now. Johnny's surgery slot gone without the deposit. Ever feel betrayed by family? Follow for justice. Danielle's about to flip the script on her brother's lies. You won't believe how she gets her life and Johnny's future back. June 12, 1992. Brandon received the brand new bike glistening chrome in the summer sun. I received hand-me-down roller skates, scuffed and missing a wheel. Dad said Brandon needed it for his paper route, and they couldn't afford two new gifts. I understood, but the sting remained. Christmas 2004, Brandon was gifted a trip to Europe while I worked double shifts to afford textbooks. Brandon needs the experience, Mom had declared. It'll broaden his horizons. My horizons felt narrow, constrained by bills and responsibilities. I didn't deserve the same opportunities. The pattern was set early, a constant current of excusing Brandon's behavior. While he carelessly spent money, I meticulously tracked every penny. While he chased fleeting dreams, I built a stable foundation for Johnny. While he received endless chances, I fought tooth and nail for every inch. The final straw came just last month. Brandon, knowing Johnny's surgery was imminent, asked to borrow my car for a business trip. I hesitated, but his pleading eyes and assurances that he'd be back in 2 days wore me down. 2 days turned into 2 weeks, and when he finally returned, the car reeked of cheap cologne and stale cigarettes. He hadn't even bothered to fill the gas tank. Sorry, sis, he shrugged. Things got a little wild. That little wild cost Johnny her surgery. Silent fury, a cold fire, began to burn within me. No more excuses, no more enabling. No more silence. For years, I diligently built my empire, a network of online stores selling my handcrafted baked goods. Each meticulously decorated cupcake, each perfectly piped cookie, was a brick in the wall I constructed, a wall Brandon never saw. It wasn't about lavish wealth or material possessions. It was about Johnny, about providing her with the life she deserved. I saved every dollar. I lived frugally. I never once complained, not truly. My tiny apartment, crammed above the bakery, was a testament to sacrifice. The peeling paint, the leaky faucet, the worn furniture, these were the visible signs of my dedication. The truth was, my business was booming. My strategic choice to keep my success hidden fueled my resolve. I enjoyed the secrecy, the power that came with knowing the extent of my capabilities. As weeks turned into months, the contrast between my growing success and my family's continued dismissal of my ambition was stark. Brandon's social media flaunted his new motorcycle, a blatant symbol of my stolen money, while my parents praised his newfound responsibility. No acknowledgement of my sacrifices, no recognition of my achievements. The silence was deafening. Then came the moment of potential revelation. Mom, scrolling through Facebook, gasped, "Danielle, isn't that Brandon's new motorcycle? How did he afford that?" My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. The truth threatened to erupt, shattering the carefully constructed facade I maintained. But I steeled myself, met her gaze, and said, "He's been working hard, Mom. I'm happy for him." The lie tasted like ash in my mouth. The tension was palpable. This was my moment, my choice. Remain silent or reveal everything. I chose silence for now. But I knew this was only the beginning. The annual summer solstice barbecue at Dad's house loomed, an obligation I usually dreaded. This year it felt different, a stage. I accepted the invitation, a calculated move. Time to set the stage. Strategic prep. I quietly reached out to Michael, Eleanor's lawyer's son, briefing him on the situation. He agreed to attend, armed with the evidence I'd painstakingly gathered. The scent of charcoal and Dad's famous ribs hung heavy in the air as I arrived. Laughter spilled from the backyard, a cacophony of oblivious joy. Inside, I took a deep breath. Time to start the show. "Danielle, you look tired, honey," Mom fussed, pulling me into a hug. "Brandon just bought a new grill. Isn't it beautiful?" She gestured towards a gleaming stainless steel monstrosity, practically radiating wealth. My stomach tightened. The barbecue was a status symbol, a blatant display of stolen money, and they couldn't see it. "It's nice," I managed, forcing a smile. Brandon clapped me on the back, his eyes gleaming. "Hey sis, glad you could make it. I'll get you a drink." His voice oozed false camaraderie, a stark contrast to the betrayal I knew simmered beneath the surface. Internal monologue, he thinks he's untouchable, he thinks he's won. He's wrong. The party buzzed around me, a swirl of familiar faces and forced pleasantries. Cousins bragging about vacations, aunts gossiping about neighbors, siblings discussing their careers. I was an outsider, a silent observer watching a play unfold. My past was a constant struggle while their present basked in oblivious comfort. The moment arrived as Dad gathered everyone for grace. He spoke of family, of blessings, of togetherness. The hypocrisy stung. I opened my eyes. The air crackled with unspoken tension. Michael stood beside me, his presence a silent reassurance. "Amen," Dad concluded, and the chatter resumed. I cleared my throat, the sound amplified in the sudden hush. "Actually, Dad," I began, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest, "I have an announcement." Brandon chuckled. "Oh boy, what's Danielle up to now?" His mockery was a sharp jab. I ignored him, fixing my gaze on my parents. "Johnny's surgery, it was scheduled until recently." My voice was a controlled stream. "The hospital called, it's not happening." Aunt Carol gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Mom frowned, confusion clouding her face. "Danielle, what are you talking about?" I finally turned to Brandon, my eyes locking onto his. "The money, Brandon, the $87,500 I entrusted to you for Johnny's surgery. Where is it?" His face paled, the false tan suddenly looking sickly. He stammered, I don't know what you're talking about." That was my cue. Michael stepped forward, handing me a tablet. I pressed play. The first image flashed across the screen. Brandon, grinning, straddling his new motorcycle, the Vegas skyline shimmering behind him. Then came the bank statement's irrefutable proof of the money transfers, each transaction meticulously documented. The final nail was the video, taken weeks earlier, of Brandon drunkenly bragging to his friends about how he'd scammed his naive sister. The silence was deafening. Dad's face was a mask of disbelief. Mom's eyes welled with tears. My sisters stared at Brandon, their mouths agape. Brandon's face contorted with rage. "This is all lies, she's trying to ruin me," I remained calm. "It's all documented, Brandon. Michael has copies for everyone, including the police." I watched his face. Judge Martinez's words echoed in my mind. "The maximum sentence for embezzlement and fraud is," I didn't need to finish the thought. The color drained from Brandon's face. He looked around, desperately searching for an ally, but everyone was staring at him, their faces etched with disgust. He was alone. The power shift was complete. My quiet empire, built on sacrifice and determination, had finally revealed its strength. Mom was the first to break the silence. "Danielle, surely there's a misunderstanding." Brandon wouldn't. Her voice trailed off, the evidence too damning to ignore. "He was going to pay you back," she offered weakly. "Pay me back with what, Mom? His charm?" I asked, but it was rhetorical. I already knew the answer. A hollow emptiness formed in the pit of my stomach. "You always excuse him, always." Dad stepped forward, a flicker of anger in his eyes. "This is a family matter. We'll handle it internally." I watched him try to assert control. "Internally, like you handled it when he stole money from my college fund, or when he skipped out on rent, leaving you to cover it." The memories stung, each one a fresh wound. "No, Dad, this isn't just a family matter. This is theft, this is fraud, this is Johnny's future." My sister Emily rushed to my side. "Danielle, I'm so sorry, we had no idea." She reached for my hand, her touch tentative. "We want to help, we can set up a GoFundMe." I pulled my hand away. "A GoFundMe? After years of enabling his behavior, you think a GoFundMe will fix this?" I paused, letting my words hang in the air. "You laughed then, you're not laughing now." I looked at each of them. Brandon, desperate, tried a new tactic. "Danielle, listen. I can get you in on a new investment opportunity. High risk, high reward, we can double your money." He spoke quickly, like a salesman peddling a faulty product. I simply stared at him, a flicker of pity in my eyes. He had learned nothing. He continued his game. I shook my head. "No, thank you, Brandon." The words were clipped, final. "My investments are doing just fine." I smiled slightly. This was my triumph. He had no idea, he never would. I turned to leave, Michael following close behind. "Danielle, wait," Mom called after me, desperation lacing her voice. "Where are you going?" I paused at the doorway, my hand on the knob. "To ensure Johnny gets her surgery." I let my gaze sweep over the assembled family, their faces a mixture of guilt, shame, and disbelief. and to make sure he pays for what he's done. With that, I walked away, leaving them to grapple with the consequences of their choices. The silence that followed was deafening. It was the sound of my freedom. The surgery proceeded as planned, and it was over. I took Johnny to the park as a victory lap. Weeks turned into months. Brandon, facing mounting legal pressure and ostracized by the family, was spiraling. He lost his job, his apartment, his motorcycle, everything he'd acquired with my stolen money. The criminal case dragged on, but Michael assured me a conviction was likely. One evening, Michael called, his voice tight. "Danielle, Brandon's lawyer contacted me. He wants to negotiate a settlement." I frowned. "A settlement? What does he have to offer?" "Apparently," Michael said, "Brandon is willing to sign over his share of the family business." My breath caught in my throat. The family business, Holloway and Sons Construction, was a multi-million-dollar enterprise, the foundation of my family's wealth. Dad, Grandpa, and uncles had built it from the ground up. Brandon's share wasn't vast, but it was significant. Dad was stubborn and controlling. I was sure he would be furious. "Why would he do that?" I asked, bewildered. "Desperation, Danielle," Michael said. "He's facing jail time. He needs money for a lawyer, and he knows your parents will be more lenient if he makes amends." I considered the offer. The money was tempting, but something else intrigued me: the power. Holloway and Sons Construction was more than just a business. It was a legacy, a symbol of my family's identity. To control a piece of that, to wield influence over their empire, was a sweet revenge. "Tell them I'll consider it," I said, a slow smile spreading across my face. "But I have a few conditions." The next day, I sat in Michael's office, facing my parents and Brandon's lawyer, a slick man in a tailored suit. Brandon wasn't present, too ashamed to face me. The room felt thick with tension. "Ms. Holloway," the lawyer began, "my client is prepared to sign over his entire share of Holloway and Sons Construction to you, free and clear, in exchange for you dropping the criminal charges." Dad's face was flushed, his hands clenched into fists. Mom wrung her hands nervously. "That's not all," I said, my voice calm and even. "I also want control of Brandon's voting rights within the company. I want to be able to influence the direction of the business." Dad sputtered. "That's outrageous. I won't allow it." I raised an eyebrow. "Then I guess we'll see Brandon in court." I watched my family. They needed this deal. "There's one more thing," I continued, my voice barely a whisper. "I want a full, public apology from Brandon. I want him to admit what he did, not just to me, but to Johnny, to the entire family." The lawyer hesitated. "I'm not sure my client will agree to that." "Then there's no deal," I said, standing up. "Good day." As I turned to leave, Mom grabbed my arm. "Danielle, please, don't do this. Think of your father." I looked at Dad, his face a mask of anger and frustration. The family business was his life, his legacy. He couldn't bear the thought of me, the quiet bakery worker, wielding power over it. "I am thinking of him, Mom," I said softly. "And I'm thinking of Johnny. This isn't just about the money, it's about justice. It's about holding Brandon accountable. And it's about showing all of you that I'm not the pushover you always thought I was." A week later, Brandon, pale and trembling, stood before the entire family and read a prepared statement admitting his guilt and apologizing for his actions. It was hollow, forced, but it was enough. He signed the papers, relinquishing his share and voting rights to me. The look on Dad's face as he handed me the documents was priceless, a mixture of rage, disbelief, and grudging respect. He couldn't believe I outsmarted him. I now had a seat at the table, a voice in the room, a piece of their empire. The control was intoxicating. I had planned to use my vote to ensure the business practiced ethical business practices, donated to local charities, and promoted diversity within its workforce. I sat back with a smile. The game had changed. Time blurred into a new normal. Brandon faded, a cautionary tale. Slowly, tentatively, Mom and my sisters tried to rebuild bridges, invitations to dinner, offers to babysit Johnny. My responses were measured, polite, but guarded. Old wounds took time to heal, and trust, once broken, was a fragile thing. Johnny, oblivious to the machinations, blossomed. Her laughter echoed through the park as she ran, her spine straight, her spirit soaring. The surgery had been a success, but the emotional scars lingered. I wrapped my arms around her tightly. She was worth it. Looking back, the victory wasn't about money or power, but about Johnny's freedom. The theft had been a violation, but her recovery was a testament to our strength. I had found my voice and my worth. In the end, family wasn't always blood, but those who stood beside you when the world crumbled. Junny was my world, and her joy, her laughter, was the sweetest revenge. I was finally free. If you've known pain like Danielle, you understand. Ready to rewrite your story. Share this, inspire someone, and remember, true success silences revenge. Go shine.